in both of these models, they're not in anatomical position. So when you want to count your spinal nerves, if I ask you on the exam, you would start over here, right? This would be spinal nerve number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That first spinal nerve, notice how it's here, right inferior to the skull, to the foramen magnum of the skull, but right before the first cervical vertebrae. You can actually see it over here a little bit better. See, there's the foramen magnum, right, where the brainstem becomes the spinal cord, and then there you can just see that first cervical vertebra, just a little section of it. So it goes out from there. So when you're doing your counting, you go C1, 2, 3, 4, C5, C6, 7, C8, and then you start T1, 2, 3, all the way down, right? So if we want to find the first plexus, which was the cervical plexus, the one in the neck, then what you need to do is count over here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then can you see that network of nerves right there? And then do you remember the nerve it's going to give rise to, the real important one involved in breathing? What was that nerve called? You got to know this one for the rest of your life. It starts with a PH, phrenic. Everybody say that, phrenic nerve. The phrenic nerve. So that one's, this cervical plexus right here is going to give rise eventually to the nerve that's going to come down here, where the diaphragm is. Okay. Then, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4. From C5, C6, C7, C8, and T1, this plexus, notice where it's going to. The arm, so that's the brachial plexus. And then that, remember I talked about giving rise to the ulnar nerve. Many others, radial, ulnar, median, but just you needed, Common Core Objective says you need to know one, so I tried to get the one that's the most common, that goes between the olecranon process and the olecranon fossa, and you hit up on it and it hurts, that funny, ouch, really hurts. Then notice on from T2 all the way to T12, what do you notice? Do they have plexuses? What do we call these nerves right here? Intercostal nerves. Then we get down over here. Here's your lumbar region. So this is L1, 2, 3, 4 lumbar spinal nerves, right? And then they merge right here to form the lumbar plexus. Remember, the lumbar plexus gives rise to the femoral, right? To the femoral nerve. You can feel here on the anterior medial thigh muscles, the quads, and all of that. Your sensory motor commands are sensing, on the skin. Then over here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then from L4 to L all the way to S1 over here, this plexus right here is the sacral plexus, and that's the one that gives rise to this huge one right here, longest, thickest sciatic nerve. Good. So I just wanted to make sure, did everybody understand that? Okay, and then just a few other things that maybe will help you. I'm just trying to prepare you for Wednesday. We had a nice little this model right here is really, really nice as well. Thank you, Evie. Excuse me one second. I just wanted to show you right here. Again, here's the occipital bone. Can you see the foramen magnum? Can you see there the brainstem, you can see the pons and the medulla? So notice right here out the back, before the first cervical vertebrae, that's where the first spinal nerve comes out, right? So remember that the space between the two vertebrae, if I take two vertebrae right here, that space between the two vertebrae, this is the foramen? Intervertebral foramen. This is the vertebral. This is where the spinal cord goes through. But here in this space, this is where the spinal nerves go through. And remember that you have this little intervertebral disc that separates out the two. So when that intervertebral disc and the fluid that's in the middle of that gets squished, like when you have used it over the years and all of that, then that's where you get what you see right here, which is a herniated disc. And that pinches the nerve, and that's why you get the pain, whether it's it's most common usually in the cervical region, or even more common in the lumbar sacral region. So I just wanted to show you that. And then this right here, this model is really nice. We just got this recently. Can everyone see the spinous process there? Here's our spinal cord right here. And here I just wanted to show you would this part right here, would that be the dorsal or would that be the anterior?
Anterior.
This right here, what goes all the way to the back? Posterior goes all the way. So this is the back. This is the back. Okay, so if I look right here and I look at this model, can everyone see right here this swelling right there? So this would be the dorsal root, and that swelling is the dorsal root ganglia. This right here is the ventral root, and where those two come together, what is that? Spinal nerve. And then can you see this one that's going to the back? That would be the dorsal ramus. This one that's going towards the front is the ventral ramus, and this one, these two little ones that are right here, these would be the two rami communicantes. And so what would be these swellings that we see right here? Autonomic ganglia, either sympathetic, we can call it either sympathetic trunk ganglia or chain ganglia or paravertebral, right? Para means beside, right there, right beside the spinal cord. The prevertebral ganglia are going to be over here in this region right over here, in front of that. But this is a nice model that shows that, so I just wanted to point that out. And then again, same thing, if we take this model right here, if I ask you, what are these right here? Everybody, for the lecture exam, remember we're prepping for lecture exam. What is that? Dorsal roots, and what's that? Dorsal root ganglion, and this? Ventral root, and this, and then right here where it comes together? Spinal nerve. And then from here, that's where right here, we form those branches. Remember, spinal nerves, are they sensory, motor, or are they mixed? All of them are what? All of them are mixed. Sensory information, receiving sensory info, and sending motor commands. Excuse me. And then there's one more while I come to you guys here. I really like this model as well. It puts together everything in our drawing that you guys are going to draw for me of the somatic nervous system. Right? Look how beautiful that is. So what do we see right here? What part of a neuron is that?
Cell body.
That's what part of a neuron? Cell body. And so from here, this yellow, all the way to right here, what is that? What part of a neuron? That's from here, all of this is a
axon.
What? Axon. What's an axon also called with an F?
Fiber.
Fiber. Okay, and then over here, what are these called? Sensory receptive endings, or the dendrites, right? Depends on the type of cell that it is. So what does this represent? A little patch of skin. So you have all of these sensory feelings. Maybe they're pressing down. That's where they're from. Free nerve endings. We see there some of the corpuscles and all of that. So receiving sensory information going up the back, right? This is the back. And then can you see the synapse there? What kind of a neuron is this by function? Interneuron. By structure? Is it unipolar, pseudo-unipolar, bipolar, or multipolar? Multipolar. So it's receiving the sensory information up the back, analyzing it, deciding on the response, and then sending it out through what kind of a neuron by function is that? The motor or efferent neuron. And then see how it's sending it over here? So what does this represent?
Muscle.
Skeletal. So if I boxed in this area, what could I call that area where it's right almost touching that muscle?
Neuromuscular.
Neuromuscular. See how we just keep repeating it over and over? What neurotransmitter is released at that end? Acetylcholine. And then over here, this is what, remember how these neurons right here, this can also come over to this region, and then this can send sensory information up to, not just like that, up to the brain, up through the brain. What do we call all of those axons sending information up to the brain? They're called tracts. What kind of tracts are these? They're going up, ascending. And then when the brain analyzes, sends down a motor command through the white, what is that called? Descending tracts. Okay, remember that? The ascending, those involve the primary or first order, second order, third order, whereas the descending involve the upper and the lower motor neurons. Is that sounding familiar to everybody? Okay, and then another beauty of this model right here is this spinal cord that you can see right there. That's the real size of the human spinal cord. This is a life-size model. Can everybody see that? This is it. It's not much thicker than that. These are just like zoomed in, magnified models, of course. And then down here, I also just wanted to show you how beautifully you could see all the way over here. Can you see the sacral spinal nerves right here in the sacrum? And then right there, there's that little coccygeal nerve right there. There's also emerging from there, there's a little strand that attaches to the coccyx. Remember, our last part of the spinal cord where we had that filum terminale and the cauda equina and all of that. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so these are the spinal nerves, and then these are going to form the plexuses. Any questions about that? I think we're missing one little model. Where is? Oh, I know it. Excuse me, one second. Can everybody see those same structures on this model? Can you see those same structures on model? What would this be right here? This would be these yellow structures. Can you guys see those yellow structures right there?
Dorsal root.
Here, maybe if I put it down here, that would be easier. This right here, this would be the dorsal root, and these would be the ventral. And then what's this swelling that we see right here? Dorsal root ganglion. And then can you see there where it splits? What's the split over here coming to the back? Dorsal ramus. This one going to the front. And this ventral ramus right here is the same as over here, right? Where we're forming, this is going to form those plexuses. So this ventral ramus here and this, these are the same thing, right? Here on this model, they just cut off right here. They just cut off where the spinal are. They didn't even show those branches. They just cut off there. And then this right here, these two structures, what are those? Rami what? Communicantes. And then what's this swelling that we see over here? Sympathetic trunk ganglia, chain ganglia, paravertebral ganglia. And then over here we see the same thing on this side. See the dorsal root ganglion? Here's the dorsal root ganglion. Sorry, put it a little bit over here maybe. Dorsal root ganglion. Here's the ventral root, dorsal root. Then where it comes together, spinal nerve. And then this would be the, what's this over here? Dorsal ramus, ventral ramus, rami communicantes, and then sympathetic trunk or chain ganglia, all of those ganglia. Is everybody getting the idea? So this is right here where we have these from the lateral horn. That's what we were talking about today, how they go from here, from this lateral horn, and then they go this way, and then they go through this rami communicantes, and then do all those crazy things to synapse with the second motor neuron, efferent neuron, that we call the ganglionic neuron. That lovely textbook. Remember, today's lecture is not on the exam on Wednesday, so focus on from the neurophysiology here. Watch videos, guys. That's the neurophysiology videos. Watch them again on My Lab and Mastery. And what happens if you don't have an account? Too bad?